Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar around driving employee engagement in 2017. We're going to wait for a few more people to join and get started right after 9:30. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this morning for Driving Employee Engagement in 2017. It's a really important time to come together to talk about employee engagement. As a lot of you know, you're in a big kind of period of having goals ahead of you and really thinking about how do I engage my workforce and build excitement against tackling everything at hand. So we're going to do a good job today of walking you guys through some best practices. All right, we were just getting everything set up, so we were good to go. Quickly, my name's Morgan Cheney. I'm head of marketing at Blueboard, and for those of you guys who don't know Blueboard, we're an employee rewards and recognition company focused on rewarding with experiences. So exciting things like a kayaking trip, a personal spa day, learning how to golf in lieu of other monetary rewards. And then I'm also really excited to be joined by Elizabeth Pierce.
Hi, everyone. This is Elizabeth Pierce, and I am the head of training for Zenefits. We are an all-in-one HR platform, and we're excited to talk to you about all the engagement, employee engagement, and moving through the employee life cycle and a couple other fun things.
Yeah, definitely. Elizabeth and I were just chatting before we started. We're both admittingly engaged employees, which can mean that you're hardworking at times too, and sometimes need to have a little bit of time to go home and kind of reward yourself. So we were talking about ways that we reward ourselves when we get home, and we were both very big Netflix junkies. I just got into watching Homeland after tons of people were telling me to get into it. Through season 2 now, doing good so far. And then Elizabeth has just recently been watching.
I'm watching Timeless, and then also just finished up The Man in the High Tower. So that was my final binge for the for the month, which was good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So just a few housekeeping items when we get started. We'll have everybody on mute just to kind of keep things going, but please definitely share your questions with us over the chat. We'll do Q&A at the end. We'll make sure to address all the good questions that you guys have shared. We'll also be recording the webinar, so if anyone has to jump off early, we'll make sure to get a video recording to you afterwards. And lastly, we have a few cool resources in the console that you'll see in the webcast, including Blueboard's latest buyer's guide. So this is going to be a really great tool for kind of catching you up on why engagement is important in the workforce and essentially why recognition is a really great way to deliver on that. So definitely check that out, as well as a few other things we might be dropping in along the way. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So just regards to our agenda, we'll cover a few different things. First, really, why is engagement important, and what is it really at the end of the day too? Engagement can be a little bit of a nebulous word sometimes, so we'll break it down for you and talk about why it's important to the success of your company and why it's an important thing for you to focus on in Q1. After that, we'll talk about, where an engaged workforce begins. So this is where Elizabeth will be taking us through the employee life cycle and really highlighting where engagement is important, where you should focus on through the tenure of your time with your employee. Afterwards, how you can maintain engagement, so how to get started and how to keep up a good program. And then lastly, I'll take everyone through how you can really get going on crafting a program that meets your own unique goals, including how to build a meaningful recognition program, which is a huge driver of employee engagement, and how you can bring a culture of recognition to life at your office. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Elizabeth.
Great, thanks, Morgan. One of the biggest things we need to talk about is, what is employee engagement? Is it, basically taking people to lunch? Is it going out for drinks? What is employee engagement? It's not just a card. It's more around making sure that, it's important for the whole company. It's important for productivity. It's important for performance. It's also around getting the buy-in and driving the strategy and sort of focusing on the company's goals. Because the happier employees you have, the stronger they're going to support their teams, support their other employees that they work with, and they're actually going to focus a lot on making sure that they reach the goals of the company, but then also reaching personal goals and working together and just being more engaged and happier at work. That's the key right there, is the happier you are at work, the more engaged, the more productive the team members are going to be going forward. So how to spot that engaged employee? So they understand the why. A lot of people have seen probably the Simon Sinek video from the TED Talks that are in the top. He's the top 5 TED Talk for all time, and he talks about the golden circle, and he talks about start with why. And really, it's if an employee understands the why behind their mission and the vision of the company, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to be more driven to help the company move forward, help their coworkers move forward, and actually reach the goals. They're also going to recommend others to work at the company. So if they're enjoying their work, they're doing good work, and they are moving forward, they actually are going to recommend other people to work at the company for which they're enjoying it. One of the big things with this is also going back to Glassdoor sometimes. When you're talking about recommending a company or a CEO or a person at a particular company, you're going to drive engagement towards applying for jobs, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the employee life cycle. They're also proud and engaged with the company outside of work and social media, so they're more likely to actually post out, hey, this is a great thing that we're just doing at Zenefits, or we're doing this amazing community effort with Blueboard. So they're going to actually post things. They're going to get excited. They're going to post things not only on LinkedIn, but also on their personal feeds like Twitter or even Facebook. They're going to actually be the brand ambassadors for the company itself. And then passionately contributing to the success of not only the company, but others around them. They're going to really push hard to make sure that they're supportive of others with them. This disengaged employee is really sometimes easy to spot, but also sometimes hard to spot, because there's an employee who is engaged, There's an employee who's not engaged, and there's an employee who's actively disengaged per Gallup. An actively disengaged person is someone who's actually going to go through and almost sabotage the company, the mission, the vision, the customer potentially, and other employees within the group. The not engaged person is going to be sort of a passive-aggressive, unengaged, sort of wading through and just trying to, they come in, they do their job, they check their timesheet, and then they leave. So that's like really someone who's not engaged, which is equally as bad. However, the actively disengaged person is really terrible. It's really abusing sick days, it's infecting other employees, and it really turns into bad customer service as well as kind of bringing others around them sort of down. And the cost of that per Gallup is about $550 billion. So it's pretty important to keep people engaged and happy with what they're doing. Cool. And then getting employees engaged from the get-go. So this is actually a picture of my team. We had a huge product launch called Z2, and then we had an offsite where 3 or 4 of the employees actually went through and discussed like the presentation skills training they went to, a conference that they went to that actually talked about instructional design for learning and development, et cetera. And so we had this great sort of presentation of like, this is what the best presentations look like. And then we all drove down to San Jose and actually saw Simon Sinek speak. So not only did we have that great engagement from the team, but we also went and saw someone actually speak who's an amazing presenter. So it was a huge engagement for us. The team loved it. So it was just like saying thank you to them, but then also doing something that's part of our industry and something that all of us are really passionate about. So just from the beginning, getting through the onboarding programs, our team also runs all of the onboarding programs, which is so much fun. We have a team of 3 that basically runs everything from our support training to the 4-day boot camp that we have when you walk in the door. We really try to get employees up and running from the very beginning. So the insurance industry is sometimes complex. So essentially walking in and you're just a fresh graduate, you may not know what an FSA is. You may not know some basic insurance terms. So we want to make sure that from the first 4 days, you get as much industry knowledge, understanding of our customers, understanding of our brand, and be excited about our vision and mission statements. We also have like buddies that we actually pair up during the onboarding process. So someone who's not your manager, someone who can be there for you, whether it's just finding a printer to actually where is the closest lunch spot, just getting that sort of connection. And then I talked about team building as well. We also have manager training, which is really important. So a lot of times, especially with startups, you have someone who starts, a new employee who starts, and basically they don't see their manager. It's like they come in and they're like, oh, great, welcome to Zenefits or welcome to Blueboard. And then they're like, here's your computer, off you go. It is so important to have that manager completely engaged from the very beginning so that they don't feel, so the employee feels like they're part of a team immediately. The other thing is you may have inherited employees. If you're a new manager to your particular company, you want to make sure you make those connections really fast because those are relationship building. It's really important to make sure that the manager is engaged across the board. And then also doing checks, and we'll talk about that during the life cycle. Personalized coaching as well, so you're making sure that you're actually, as a manager or as a coworker, you're actually coaching another person or you're coaching your employees through like maybe a difficult time. It is extremely important to understand and be able to read your employees to see if their work product is sort of starting to slip. Is this something that's going on at home? Is it something that's happening within the company? What is going on with that employee, and to be there as a manager to support them. And then we do small employee perks as well, and Blueboard is part of that, which is great. And Morgan will talk more about that, which is awesome. And then internal and external education. So for us, for my team, everyone on my team is required every quarter to go to a meetup that is external, that is industry focused. So there's a couple companies out there right now that are really great that throw sort of mini sessions around, HR innovators, or they do a learning and development collective where it's just this fun, great, maybe a lecture and then an activity around it. There's been some other companies that my team has gone to, and we've actually had collaboration sessions. So it's it's a working session, but it's collaborating with like another startup in the Valley, and it's been really fun to do that. And you can do that anywhere, absolutely anywhere in the country. You can just find another company. You're like, this is really interesting. I like what you're doing. I'm excited to see how you're approaching something in a certain way, and get the team engaged that way. And that's actually a form of recognition as well, because you're actually investing in your people and their time. So here's my sort of a view of a employee life cycle. So it's really about, it's everything. So all the way through the entire process, it is all about engaging, monitoring, and recognizing the employee all the way through, and the teams as a whole. So even starting with attraction, so are you actually attracting the right talent who are going to be engaged when they walk in the door? What does the recruitment process look like? Are you engaging the potential new employee in the right way through recruiting? Are you actually, in onboarding, are you actually going through and making sure that the recruitment was on target, the attraction was on target, we got the right people in the door at the right time, in the right space, and in the right seat, and recognizing them as well. And then going through in development and growth enablement. Development, I really sort of think it's more of maybe the first like 90 days to even like the first like through the second quarter of their employment, just because they're still learning and they're still engaging. And sometimes during this portion, they may not feel so confident into being able to do their job, which is really important, because if they're not confident in doing their job, you need to be supportive as a manager. The company needs to be supportive. You need to provide additional training or provide recognition when you've done a great job. You've made it to 90 days. Hey, here's a card. Congratulations. Whatever it might be, just making sure the development is actually occurring. And then growth enablement is more around more senior folks or someone who's been here a little bit longer. So you actually may find someone who's doing really well at their job and they are just knocking it out of the park. And at that point, you may have to do a little bit more recognition because they may become disengaged. You don't want to actually have that disengaged employee. And the growth enablement stage is the point where that actually might happen. So you want to make sure that you're recognizing and you're giving them what they need. So for instance, with the growth enablement, I may actually partner a team member who's really solid at a task with somebody who's coming in and is at the development stage. So I'm actually creating a mentorship program within the team. Not only is that great because they form a relationship and they learn from each other, but then also kind of selfishly from a manager standpoint, I can walk away and just kind of monitor that, and I don't have to actually do the work. They actually are enjoying and engaging and like really having a great time working together. And then I can recognize the great work that they're doing in a team meeting or through another vehicle. Retention. So making sure that our retention is absolutely 100% on target. So we want to make sure that if there is a portion where someone's like, hey, I'm thinking of leaving, finding out why, what are the things that are occurring? Is there something we can do? And this is not a space where it's like a threatening environment. It's more of a help us understand how we can keep you engaged. What are we doing that we're not engaging you going forward? And if there is a separation, and making sure that that's as positive as is humanly possible, because the people who separate or leave the company are the ones who may or may not recommend the company going forward. So we want to make sure that the cycle stays the same all the way across. Cool. And then this is a bigger defining all the stages across. And you can see from the second to the bottom, it's the high engagement, the variable engagement, and the low engagement. In my opinion, high engagement is great. It's like you're excited, you're here, you're learning, and then the variable engagement is when that recognition part really truly starts to happen. More recognition and making sure that you're on target with the types of recognition that you're doing, and then low engagement. And just as a side note for a manager, just because you as a manager think this would be a great gift for recognition doesn't mean that the employee thinks it's a great gift for recognition. And that actually feeds right into Blueboard as well, where someone actually gets to pick their own. And then towards the bottom, you'll see the hire, inspire, admire, and retire. So you just want to make sure that you're running through those and making sure that the stages are 100% complete. And we'll send out this deck, so you'll see the recording and you can read a little bit further.
Very cool. All right, Elizabeth, thank you so much. So now we're all pretty clear on why engagement is important. Elizabeth did a great job of walking through where engagement begins, where it should be really advanced or elevated through the different stages of the life cycle. So now I want to share really how you can actually start building it. So when we think about the three different ways or the three different factors that influence employee engagement, research points to three big buckets. The first one is leadership and communication. The second is learning and development opportunities, like Elizabeth just hit on. And lastly, rewards and recognition. We wanted to spend a little bit more time on recognition, mostly because it can be, if done poorly, actually have some pretty damaging effects on your employees. This can be from programs or awards that are kind of misaligned with your values and with your why. It can be that they're not really meaningful to the employee, or worst case, that they actually don't exist at all, which we just read some research from Office Vibe that the reality is that 65% of the workforce, which is 2 out of every 3 employees, doesn't get recognized typically in a given week at all. Even just a nice pat on the back or like a quick email from their manager, it's just not happening. So as you can imagine, that's a pretty awful feeling. If you've ever been in a position where you've been pouring your heart out for a company, working your butt off, and you're not really getting recognized, or if you're getting a gift that doesn't really align with your personal passions or interests, it actually ends up being wasted, and it doesn't really help move your organizational goals as a company. So of the 3 areas on the screen, when you think about, where should I invest my time first and what should I put resources against, our vote is for recognition, and here's a few reasons why. First is that recognition is actually very fulfilling. We all want to have a very warm, positive culture at our office, and there's nothing better than being able to tell someone thank you. And as a company, if you can empower your managers to do that, they're going to feel an immediate benefit from being able to show their appreciation and gratitude for the employee. And then for the employee, they're really reaping that benefit in real time. You'll see that in various engagement metrics like retention or their performance or their just general attitudes toward their coworkers. Second, recognition is just very easy to execute. It can be verbal in a moment. It can be you taking your employee over to the side and just telling them in a very genuine way, thank you for the performance they just had at a recent client meeting, for example. Or if you do want to invest in a more formal recognition program, it can be up and onboarded in simply a matter of weeks. After that, recognition is very social. It builds a culture of appreciation and excitement when people go above and beyond, and really helps build an overall stronger workplace community as people are really looking out for those opportunities to appreciate each other and get excited when someone does the right thing for the company. And then lastly, recognition shows immediate results. We look at a lot of research from Berson by Deloitte. Highly recommend checking that out if you haven't already seen Josh Berson present or have read his articles. He did some research a few years ago and showed that companies who do have recognition in place see a 14% lift in engagement and productivity, and also 30% lower annual voluntary turnover rates, which is huge. If you can think about, a simple thank you or a thoughtful reward can save a third of your workforce annually. All right, so we did say that recognition needs to be thoughtful because if done poorly, it can have some negative effects on engagement and culture. So let's talk about the ways that a recognition program can be meaningful, one that really has a chance of improving your employee engagement trends. So we believe at Blueboard that meaningful recognition is these 3 things. First, recognition is memorable. That means that you're celebrating the employee in a really meaningful, memorable way, not just with a short one-line email. It's thoughtful, and you've taken time to do that. You're doing it in person, and you're offering rewards that will really help them create lasting memories. Because if you create memories that are positive, that's an opportunity for the employee to come home to their roommate or significant other and really brag about how great their manager and their company is. That helps boost your employer brand and actually helps you have the opportunity for long-term new hire referrals as your employee is really becoming a strong ambassador for you and celebrating their achievements and the way that you're rewarding them. Second, we believe that recognition should be personal. So this is thanking the person in a way that really is relevant to them and offering rewards, like Elizabeth mentioned, the choice even, if possible, to help suit their unique interests. And we were reading recently that overall the U.S. actually invests $50 billion into recognition. That's quite a lot of money in ways to help motivate their team. But a lot of that is actually monetary-based rewards, like cash and gift cards, which a lot of us are guilty of. If we get cash, for example, it sometimes just melts into our bank account, or we spend it on things that are very transactional. So maybe buying gas or buying groceries, very nice, but not something that you're going to really have a lot of excitement about. So at the end of the day, research has found that 87% of the spend actually has zero effect on your organizational goals. So $50 billion, 87% is not really hitting the mark. That's quite a lot of money. So we really challenge you to think about personalizing the way that you reward your employees. And then lastly, recognition that's shareable. So this is all about making recognition feel comfortable. We don't want it to feel like you're bragging if someone does something great. You don't want it to be awkward if you're talking with someone about a monetary reward they received. So it's really all about making rewards that employees are excited to talk about with their coworkers. So quickly, let's talk a little bit about Blueboard's offering. We created Blueboard really to enable companies to meaningfully reward their top employees, like I mentioned before, with experiences as rewards. And we're actually the only recognition platform on the market right now doing this. And the bonus, of course, being here today with Zenefits is that in October, when they announced their Z2 renewal, we are actually part of their third-party apps launch. So if you're an existing Zenefits customer, you can easily partner with Blueboard and actually reward employees through your workflow. So you never actually have to leave the Zenefits platform. And if you're wanting to check out more, you can actually log into your dashboard. There's a big plus sign at the bottom where you can add in more third-party apps, and you can browse and learn more about Blueboard that way. But if you do decide to integrate, you can easily in your workflow reward employees on their anniversary date when they receive a promotion as you're updating their information within Zenefits. So a little bit more about why we feel experiences are truly the most meaningful way to reward employees. First, experiences are inherently memorable. As you go out and about, you're maybe challenging your comfort zones. I got to go skydiving actually when I first joined Blueboard. That was definitely challenging a comfort zone, or indulging in your passions or reconnecting with friends and family. Your employees are creating lasting memories that they associate directly with your company, again, helping to build those feelings of motivation and retention. Second, experiences are personal. Everyone at your company has their own unique hobbies, their own passions, their own aspirations. And with Blueboard, we actually offer a catalog of hand-curated experiences that they get to choose from. So it's not the manager's job to decide if someone needs to go skydiving or not. It's definitely not for everybody. Someone might really want to indulge in like a pottery class or get creative that way, or they might just want to have a spa day, and that's totally their deal. So that's their choice. And as you'll see on the screen, these are a few different social media shares that we've gotten over the last few months from employees who are going out and about with their Blue rewards. So it's things like having a guitar lesson, taking a whitewater rafting trip with their family, getting PADI certified, or having just a much-needed weekend getaway with their loved one. So yeah, no matter your employees' interest or unique passions, there's something for everybody. And definitely welcome you guys in the Q&A. Take a look at the screen, and if there's any reward that you would love to get from these, feel free to chat it in for us. And the next, experiences are shareable. So as your employees are coming back to work after their awesome weekend adventure, they really do become that brand ambassador. They become a light that really builds excitement amongst their coworkers, which is just great for morale and just building team building. And they also feel way more energized to tackle the next project at hand. And then finally, and most importantly, experiences make a lasting impact. We actually deliver post-experience surveys to all of our employees after they finish their reward, and we measure the change in engagement metrics, which is incredibly important for you as a HR leader to be able to show that there is data proving to how your recognition program is making an impact. We really like to empower HR leaders to be transparent and have the ability to celebrate how the recognition program is making a difference. All right, so now that we've talked about a few different reasons why recognition is important, let's talk about how you can bring it to life at your office. And Elizabeth and I actually had a good time just sharing or ideating on some things that we've seen at different companies, but this slide is really all about how you can bring it to life and some of our favorite tactics for actually bringing recognition to your office. So the first of these are goal-based incentives. So this is the idea of employees are exceeding either their individual or their team-based business goals. So in the case of an engineering team, maybe they launched a product ahead of schedule. For sales or marketing, maybe they totally beat and blew away their aggressive monthly user target, or for sales teams, they just crushed their quota that quarter. The next would be company values recognition. This is one that's really increasingly popular. We have several clients at Blueboard with robust recognition programs tied to company values. And this is especially important, I think, for just building overall culture and morale. You want to have these values be part of everyone's daily behavior. You want them to be top of mind. So what better way than having a recognition program where people can nominate each other for really displaying core company values. The next is service awards. So this is the same as anniversary awards, the idea of really celebrating tenure at your company, helping everybody get excited about the hard work everyone's doing and the more years they spend with you. So recognizing employees when they first hit their 1-year mark, and then typically the following years after that. Some companies we do see start with the 1 year and then do 3- and 5-year awards, but ideally every year is really special and meaningful, and you can say thank you each time that comes around. Next up is peer-to-peer recognition. So this is where you can really empower everyone at the company to recognize. This is where either employees can nominate peers and then the manager is able to review, or employees are able to directly nominate each other. Typically for monetary incentives, we do kind of recommend that managers are involved in the approval process. But if you want to do something more low tech, it's easy for employees to recognize each other directly in real time. I met with a team recently who had a really fun example at their office that was super low budget, a really great way for employees to get involved. They actually have stuffed animals. One was a narwhal, which you guys might know is a mythical creature that I believe is like part dolphin, part unicorn. And then they had a unicorn as well. So these were characters that were really part of their early day as a company growing, and they had these stuffed animals. And the idea was that as peers were recognizing hard work in each other, you would be able to pass that on to the person each week, and the stuffed animal would live at your desk as kind of a symbol of your achievement, and then that person would be on the hook to pass it on forward the following week. And then they used a community tool like Slack just to bubble up why they were passing on the narwhal to the next person. So it made for a really fun culture building at the company. But we also have companies rewarding with Blueboard as well, or other monetary incentives as well, just to make it a little bit more tangible. And then again, to have that shared celebration, seeing people go out and about after they've really done something well and deserving of their peers' recognition. And then lastly, gratitude boards. These are becoming also increasingly popular. It's a really great way not only to build community and company-wide appreciation, but also just to give employees a little bit of a creative outlet in the day. So this is the notion of investing in something simple like a chalkboard or a whiteboard or even a pegboard, giving them an area where they can draw or handwrite notes and posting them in a public space. So maybe in your lobby or maybe in your cafe, and having this be a place where people can browse by and really see what people are doing to go above and beyond at the company. And the best practice here is definitely to keep senior management involved. So as there's really big thank yous going up on the boards, being sure that people are bubbling those up in team meetings or other ways to make sure that the company is being recognized effectively. All right. So actually, we're about to wrap up here. So just a few things to remember as we're closing up and giving you guys some much needed time back, I'm sure. The first is to engage early and often. So like Elizabeth mentioned, engagement is present across the entire life cycle. It's really important to think even as soon as someone accepts their offer letter, they need to be engaged, and what are some tactics that you can do for that. And even as they kind of continue through their tenure, she mentioned like the growth development time and even separation. Those are all really critical times where you should be thinking about unique ways to engage your employees. Following that, be sure to invest in building programs that are unique to your culture and business goals. Recognition and engagement is not one size fits all. Definitely spend time to think about the feedback from your employees. There's a few great tools out there, Culture Amp, Office Vibe, even just an internal Google form. All of those are great ways to collect feedback. And then you can analyze the needs of the employees, think about your own business goals, and craft a program from there. And then lastly, don't forget to celebrate your people. They're your most important asset. And when you think about recognition, be sure that it's memorable, personal, and shareable. And with that, we are actually going to wrap up and take Q&A. So if you haven't already, definitely feel free to add your questions into the Q&A or the chat box, and we will start taking them from there. All right, so we are back. I'm starting with Q&A. So there's been a few questions coming in just about how Blueboard works. So always happy to talk about Blueboard. It's pretty simple. So the idea is that we have a team that goes out and hand curates awesome experiences. Like I said, it can range from something like a glass blowing class, a kayaking trip, all the way up to luxury travel. We also have a really famed James Bond experience where you can be James Bond for the day. You get to rent a beautiful tux, you get to jump out of a plane, drive an Aston Martin around, and then learn how to mix the perfect martini. So there's lots of different things going on. The manager establishes a reward budget and is able to deliver rewards at their convenience, hopefully tied to one of the recognition outlets that we just talked about on the previous slide. And then the employee picks their experience from our catalog, and we have an amazing concierge team that works one-on-one with them to actually plan out all of the logistics. So I'll stop there, but definitely welcome people to visit us at blueboard.com. You can request more information through our form, and one of our team will be able to talk with you more one-on-one about your individual goals.
The next question we had was ideas for engaging more meaningfully with employees who work remotely so they feel like they are part of an office team. This is actually a really good one. I worked at Oracle for a while, and we were in 52 different countries and had over 500 employees for our division. So it was actually really hard to engage across all of those different areas. What we did is that every 6 months, we brought everybody into one space, into San Francisco. And essentially, it was a great way to have that collaboration, knowledge share. We did case studies. We made it fun. And then we also had a recognition awards night. And we also did team events, like we did a community thing, or we did something else of that in that sort of realm. When you can't have that sort of opportunity to bring everybody together every 6 months, maybe just every year, making sure that if, as a manager, if you have the ability to go to that employee's location and actually engage them on at least once a quarter scenario. Once a month would be better, but at least once a quarter, just to engage and doing like spot check and just making sure that they're on target and they're happy with what's going on, especially if you have a very high performer. The other thing that I would suggest is that just the small things are really go a long way. So if you're actually having even a team meeting and you have a couple employees in one location, a couple employees in another location, making sure that all the locations feel involved and they feel like they're being heard. A lot of times, even with Zenefits, sometimes where our headquarters is in San Francisco and we have an office in Arizona that is absolutely fantastic. Both locations are great. Our Vancouver office is amazing. But sometimes when one group is actually speaking, we kind of forget that the other offices are listening as well. And so we made an active choice to make sure that we repeat questions, that we are giving the other offices the chance to ask questions. We're using other vehicles to actually do that, such as Slack or Hangouts or something of that sort. We want to make sure that everyone feels that they're engaged and they're part of that discussion. So really, truly, the part of the office team is really important, just to make sure that, because you could actually have a employee who is disengaged, but you don't even know it because they're virtual. So making sure that you're talking with them on a regular basis. Even the partnerships I was talking about before, we have somebody who's very good at one task and a person who's maybe not so great at a task or is just learning that task, mentoring, putting them together as a mentoring partner might be one way of engaging a virtual employee.
Cool. We had another question from Adam. He asked, what would you recommend as a data analysis tool or strategy to check the employee satisfaction regarding recognition? So on that note, I'd mentioned a few tools earlier. We work with partners like Culture Amp, Office Vibe, also integrated with Zenefits. You can even do your own homegrown Google form. Definitely start somewhere, even if you're not at a potential where you can invest in a third-party survey tool. Even just doing the Google form is going to be incredibly valuable for you. The idea is definitely to ask a few questions around recognition or even just around the engagement metrics. For the survey that we offer at Blueboard, we'll ask questions about the employee's feeling of appreciation, their motivation and performance, like expectations, their plans to retain at the company. So all those are great signals to measure if you are doing a recognition program, because again, those are going to be primarily your workforce goals, and you want to make sure that any investment that you're making in an employee is measurable and able to be looked back on. So either between, if you work with someone like Blueboard, where we have a survey that can help you with that, or if you invest in one of these other partners, the idea is to be looking at engagement either quarterly, biannually, so that you can measure those trends over time.
Great. Our next question comes from Fred, who says, can you dive more into creating a buddy program? So buddy programs are really helpful in terms of just, especially with a new hire, because you got somebody who's new and they may be sort of apprehensive in, walking up to the manager and asking where something is, or maybe their manager is traveling to another location, and so they have a buddy or someone that they can actually talk to. There's a couple ways to sort of deal with the buddy. You can actually pair somebody with a buddy that is within their same department. Or if you have a team that you might have some challenges between two different teams in terms of communication, or just some basic issues where you're supposed to work really closely together, but you're having you want to drive more of that communication and more of that engagement across the teams. You may actually pick a buddy from that other team. So you create that sort of synergy. So the Zenny buddies for us, we call them Zenny buddies. And essentially we have like one-on-one meetings. They take their buddy to lunch. They can introduce their new employees to other employees within the company. It's really just a friendly current team member who wants to help out with the new hires and get involved with the new hire process. One of our kind of key focuses has been you have to be with the company for a year, just because you'll know so much more at that point. And we really try to pick people who are high potentials and who are brand ambassadors for Zenefits. We never want to pick someone who is actively disengaged. That would be a very poor form for us. But we want to make sure that they understand what's responsible for this anybody. You're not their manager. You're just a partner with them, and you're there to sort of help and be an ambassador for Zenefits, our mission and vision statement, as well as sort of going through and making sure that if they have any questions but the manager's not there, or if another team member's not there, that they can actually just help and engage and support that new Zenny buddy. And we have an entire outline, but pretty much I think a lot of places have the buddies sort of situation, and you can probably Google it and find a little bit more. But I'm happy to talk more about it offline.
Cool. We have another great question from Fred at Sphere Physical Therapy. He's asking for examples of rewards for groups. So it looks like he has teams that are in different locations. They get rewards that are team-based when they hit certain objectives. So what are some examples of rewards we can give them? And actually, you had a few good ones as well that you've been doing with your team just for groups. Yeah, I can start and just share a few of the ways we've seen. We do actually support team building events at Blueboard when we have customers also signed on with us for individual rewards. And it's really a variety, but we always try to make sure that the team building events really hit on those three criteria that we love about recognition: memorable, personal, shareable. But that'll translate to events that are educational, that are kind of challenging your comfort zones, if you will. We've had teams that have done like hot air balloon rides together, that have taken like a surf lesson or a glass blowing class together, things like that that are going to really evoke the opportunity for them to learn something new and to go out of their comfort zone a little bit. Things like team happy hours, I think, are great for bonding, but the more you can put someone in a situation that's going to be more memorable and fun for them to talk about, that'll, again, have that lasting impact that you're looking for.
Yeah, and we do some things that are more lower cost as well. So if you're budget conscious, you can do some smaller things. One of the things we did is I'm certified in Berkman, and so basically we went through, and there were some teams that we actually talked through, like, what does it mean to be a doer? What does it mean to be a thinker, an analyzer? You can even, there's a couple free or very low cost Myers-Briggs type assessments you can do. So we've done those, and then we've done actual team activities around those, and that's really fun and eye-opening because then you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so is an introvert. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then you actually partner that with an activity, such as we've used activities such as like low ropes course sort of things that are really cheap, easy to put together. Mind Tools has a bunch of stuff on there that you can kind of look through, and essentially it's like you actually pull out like how that like INTJ is actually working or functioning, and it's kind of fun to sort of see that. And then scavenger hunts. So when I was at Walmart e-commerce, we actually went through and created a scavenger hunt for the Pride team. So we actually went down to the Castro and actually did a bit of history in terms of a scavenger hunt. We did a bit of like the Walmart cheer. We did like these different sort of things that embodied the vision and mission of Walmart, but also got people to understand the importance of diversity. And it was just a really positive experience because people got to know each other, they had fun, and then they took that experience and like went back to their teams and like shared kind of what they did. So it was low cost and easy, and it was fun. It just took the time, but it was so great because people were jazzed and pumped and came back to the office and they were like, I work for a great company and this is what I want to do, and you know, I feel happy. So
very cool. Another idea just on more of the low cost too is organizing team volunteer events. So that would be working with your team, thinking about a cause that, especially if it can affect your local community, that's even better. We've helped organize things like beach cleanups. I've heard of people doing SPCA. At Blueboard, we did a volunteer event with the homeless community last year around the holidays, which was really exciting since that's a big part of our neighborhood. So yeah, something that can really affect your friends right outside, if you will, those around you, and being able to bond people together over doing an act of good.
Another question from Eve. Best practices for finding relevant meetups on the topic of employee engagement. So webinars are a great place to find information, and there's a lot of those out there. SHRM and Association for Talent Development has a lot of stuff that's available. Josh Burson as well has some great videos. In terms of local, I would look towards, if you're in San Francisco, there's a wonderful company called Udemy, and they do these great events called HR Innovators. And Josh Burson was actually mediated the panel I was on, and we talked about engagement, which is great. But what's super about it, it's completely free, and it's usually a panel of like 4 or 5 people. So they had like the Dollar Shave Club head of marketing last time. I mean, it was just crazy awesome. So they have the lecture, and then they actually have an engagement and like a Q&A session, and then you actually get to talk to people afterwards, which is super. And then Culture Amp has a bunch of stuff. And then really, I can't push Mind Tools enough. Like Mind Tools is just, somebody went and just curated like all these different like models, like situational leadership, and then also curated like all these great, easy little tools that you can do, from team building to like small recognitions. And it gives anywhere from call centers to like senior management, which is really amazing. So, I mean, Mind Tools is easy. It's been around for a long time. I think they're out of the UK, but it's simple and easy.
Great. All right. So, yeah, I think that actually answers it. Thank you guys for all the questions, by the way. That was amazing. And thank you for your time this morning. As a reminder, we will be recording this session. We'll send out that as well as a copy of the slides. We'll resurface the link to the buyer's guide I mentioned. But that's really it. Thank you again, and we'll look forward to next time.
Thank you.